All right, 6/4. This, honestly, is something that you've really kind of already done. But I found the last couple of years trying to teach this, that when people see it in a chart, their brain thinks it's way harder than it is. So questions that you've already done has saying things like, all right, I have this ratio here, 2/3. And we want to get a ratio that's equal to this, but not those two numbers. So we'd pick a number that was pretty, such as 8. I usually do smaller numbers, but do you agree 8/8 is just 1?
Yeah.
So if I multiply by 8/8, I'm really taking that fraction 2/3 and multiplying by 1. Does multiplying by 1 change its value at all?
No.
No. So 2 times 8 is 16. 3 times 8 is 24. So do you agree 16/24 equals 2/3? Unless we made a multiplication mistake, they should be equal. These tables are that exact same thing. This first one is largely up until here, like you can just pick a multiplier and do it. So maybe let's do that first one, 8 and 8. Do you agree that would give us 2 times 8 is 16 and 3 times 8 is 24? And we have two options. When we pick a number like 8, we could multiply both by 8, or we could, instead of multiplying, we could divide. But we can't add or subtract, agreed? Because adding 4 to 2 and adding 4 to 3, or adding 8 to both, doesn't get us an equal fraction. All right, so I'm going to slide this up a little bit. So somebody give me another number other than 8 that's nice.
32.
3. So I heard a 3. So I'm just going to say 2 times 3. So 2 times 3 gives us
6.
6. And 3 times 3
9.
gives us 9. So 6/9 is the same as 2/3. Good? Maybe one other number other than the times 3 we could.
22.
Oh, you guys are killing me. Okay, so
7.
it makes it sound like I don't want to work. So 2 times 32 is
64.
64. And 3 times 32,
96.
96. Good. So we could multiply or we could divide. So I'm going to take, so all these other ones, we started with this first fraction, agreed? But if this is equal to the first fraction, I could start here, or I could start here. You just need to do the same thing to both. So I'm going to divide by 2, because we said you could also divide, right? 64 divided by 2 is
32.
32. 96 divided by 2, half of 90 is 45.
40.
So half of 6 is
48.
plus 3. So half of 6 is the 3.
48.
Half of 90 is 45, so it'd be 48. You guys good?
Yeah.
All right. Now this last part, we need to figure out how to get 100. So this is where we're changing things a little bit, this section, is we need to figure out what's one of these numbers that we could multiply or divide to get to 100.
50.
I'm hearing 50. 50 times what?
2.
2, exactly. So I'm going to start with my 2 again, and I'm going to do times 50. 2 times 50 gets me the 100, agreed? So to find the number underneath it, I need to do
3 times 50.
3 times 50. So 3 times 50 gives me that, which is 150. But there's nothing magical about starting with a 2, agreed? We could take this 6 and say 6 times, I don't know what number, gets 100, and then do 9 times that same number, and you'd get it. So, fair enough? This next example I just took out of the books. I thought it was pretty cool. You don't need to know the stuff at the bottom. I just thought that was pretty sweet. So they say that in mammals, of which we are one, you tend to take 1 breath for every time your heart beats 4 times. So smaller animals tend to breathe really quickly. So we want to figure out okay, so grizzly bears, if they breathe 10 times in a minute, let's figure out how many times their heart beats in a minute on average. So what do I do to get from 1 to 10?
10.
Times 10, right? So if I do the same thing to the 4,
40.
so a grizzly bear's heart should, kind of at rest, should be about 40 times a second, or 40 times a minute. Good?
Yeah.
So if we were to do the human next, we need to get a 60 in the bottom. So we could go 40 to 60 or 4 to 60. Do you agree 40 to 60 is times 1.5. Does that work in your head? If you can't figure that out, you could do 60 divided by 40, and that would tell you the multiplier. Other people might want to start with a 4 and say 4 times 15 gets you up to 60. You can picture like 4 multiples of 15. But I'm just going to do this one so we're not always using that first ratio.
90?
So 4 times 15 would get you 60 in my head. So, okay, so if I did
Shoot.
so if I did 40 times 1.5 gets me 60. What's 10 times 1.5?
20 point.
Well,
20 is 15.
15.
Oh, shoot. I was.
Because the 1 is going to give us the 10. So you have 10 times 1, and then 10 times a half is another 5. So 10 and 5 is 15. All right. So, boy, what do you want to do? Should we go 60 to 120?
Yeah, times. Yeah.
Because that right there we just multiply by 2, right?
Yeah.
So if you're doing a fast walk, you're going to have about 120 beats a minute. And how many times should you breathe at a fast walk?
30.
30. You guys tracking with me so far? All right. Now I'm looking at this and seeing for this next one, I need to get 170. And one of these numbers I think, ooh, I can tell what the multiplier is. Does anybody see the same one as me?
10.
10. I like the 10 because 10 times what is going to get me 170?
17.
Yep, so 10 times 17. And if you're like, huh? You could do 170 divided by 10. So kind of do that ending number divided by your starting number. And when you do that, you'll get what the multiplier has to be. But if I'm multiplying 10 by 17, I have to multiply 40 by 17. You might want to just grab a calculator for that, or 680. So a mouse, because their heart's so tiny, it can beat really fast. So a mouse tends to have its heartbeat 680 times a minute. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And like their breathing is like, just talking almost 3 times a second for breathing. But the main part though is with the chart. You guys okay with the chart getting from one to the other?
Yeah.
That's this new thing, this section. So let me know if you have questions on it. Be glad to help you.